And another Elseworlds-style Batman storyline, what if one villain was so strong he was able to kill the other villains? And over in Harley Quinn, it's time for her to finally figure out how she's going to save her friends. This is the Comicstorian channel, where I take some of your favorite trade paperbacks and single issues and I break them down into digestible bites to help you understand. Then I read them dramatically back to you. All alterations to the panel, text, and images are to prevent copyright problems, and all art is owned by its respective companies. For you new viewers, at this channel, we recap my favorite pop culture lore, and today's topic is going to be a couple of comic books. You see, I grab a couple of comic books on a weekly basis and make a compilation video giving you links down below to the previous issues and the next issue, so you can follow your favorite Batman, Spider-Man, or Avengers storyline as they are happening in the comic books. Today we're going to be doing a couple of DC books. We're going to be doing Harley Quinn issue 4, and if you want to know what happened in issue 3, the link is down below. And we're going to be covering Batman Reptile issue number 1, a brand new storyline that appears to be out of continuity. If you want to support the channel, please consider hitting that subscribe button, smash that like button, check out our Patreon, but let's go ahead and get into Batman Reptile number 1. It was a victorious day for the heavyweight champion Edgar Liccardio, as he and his lawyer would hold a press conference outside of the courthouse. Licardio's lawyer tells everyone that he's pleased to announce that all of the spurious charges against his client have been dropped, and the shameful attack on his name is at an end. The judges knew to not take the evidence of the vigilante whose name will not be said, that he had zero weight behind it. Mr. Liccardio can now focus on doing what he does best, and that is training to retain his heavyweight title. But as the rain continues to pour down, a figure walks through that crowd, calmly, until he is finally face to face with Edgar. Batman stands nearly as tall as the accused, telling him, "You are a coward. You are a liar, a rapist, and a brute, and above all, you are a coward." The lawyer tells him, "That is enough. You have no credible ground to," but Batman continues, "It doesn't make a difference about your title. It's a tin plate and a wine stone and nothing more. Just because you can trade blows with another mountain of sinew and excrement doesn't mean that you are any more courageous in that regard than the average trained cur. You turned that strength of yours on 2 women, not even a quarter of your size. What you did to them, for your own sick gratification, they'll never fully recover. You then turned your wealth on them. They were harassed and intimidated by this creature's hirelings. No wonder their stories fell apart. World champion, inspiration to millions, coward, and you know it!" The lawyer yells that they will not stand here another second longer, that this is a disgrace, that someone needs to take this lunatic and... But Batman goes on telling Edgar, "When it's just you in the mirror at night, you call yourself the warrior. You know it. When you're making love to your wife, you know it. When you're kissing those whelps of yours goodnight, you'll know it. They'll know it too." And as the tree trunk-sized arm of Edgar raises into the air, he swings and Batman steps out of the way. And a moment later, there's a scream from Edgar, as the crowd huddles around the massive body of this man, sprawled out lifeless on the ground. And Batman walks away. Self-defense. Later that night in the Batcave, Batman says if he was a betting man, he would wager a tidy sum that his wife will be stupid enough to stick with him, not to mention push him around in his chair. Alfred says that he thought the whole thing was a tad public. Batman asks, "What should I have done? Lurked on a rooftop? Hissed from the shadows? Kept scum guessing? That's the best." Wait a minute, what do we have here? A 911 call an hour ago with paramedics and a PD response. Good lord. Confirming that the Scarecrow and the Mad Hatter were found together. Assaulted, gutted in fact. Alfred asks, "Dead?" Batman tells him, "No, just mutilated." 6 other individuals were found with them, along with a small arsenal of automatic weapons and explosives. 2 dead, 4 injured badly. One of the bodies apparently found partly inserted into the other's chest cavity. The scene described as a slaughterhouse. None of the victims able to speak. And look at that. Apparently the Hatter needed a tracheotomy. No doubt preparing to enact some nefarious scheme or another when they were interrupted. Later downtown, Batman visits the bar where one of the Konstantin Volkov frequents, asking where is he. The bartender says, "Please, not again." Batman says to not get sheepish. "Cheap beer, cheaper people, where's Volkov?" The bartender tells him that he doesn't know, but Batman tells him, "Someone does!" And a patron shouts, asking, "Who are you calling cheap?" Batman, without a word, flicks his wrist and a batarang gets lodged between the man's legs in his seat. He tells him, "I want that back. Rinse it off first. Now, Volkov, call him. Tell him to be on the roof of this building in an hour." An hour passes and Volkov steps onto the roof asking, "Smitty?" But Batman steps out of the shadows telling him, "He sends his regards." Volkov begins to stumble, but Batman tells him, "Watch your step, and don't even think about pulling a pistol. And don't worry, Batman never kills. Everyone knows that. You can walk away whenever you want." However, Volkov can't just walk away from the towering man, not lest he wishes to walk off the ledge of the building. Volkov asks, What do you want?" Batman tells him, "We're going to start with you being Scarecrow's number 2 man ever since he came over to the Russian organized crime." Volkov stutters, asking, "You mean the thing with the Penguin and the Riddler? I had nothing to do with that!" Batman stops him. "Not that. The thing with Scarecrow and the Hatter. What happened to the other 2? Volkov tries to spin some story, but Batman grabs him by the head, holding him over the edge, telling him, "Don't worry, Batman never kills." Volkov panics, yelling, "They were gonna hit me up! So we armed up! We headed over to Penguins, but they got hit first, and when we got there was a bloodbath. The crew didn't know what to make of it. A dozen guys dead, the Riddler split from chest to crotch, and then they nailed the Penguin to the ceiling." Batman asks, "They?" And Volkov tells him, "I have no idea. But everything's been screwy ever since that meeting. I didn't hear this from no one, but every month they get together and..." Batman tells him, "Yes, they try to cook up a plan to kill me. They've been tapped for a while, but stopped listening when they couldn't agree on the results of 2 + 2. So what's so different this time?" Volkov goes on, "I'm not sure, but it just felt like there was something in the air. I could almost smell it. It's not like we're old comrades to begin with. We nearly always ended up screaming at each other, but that night it was bad. Like everyone seemed ready to go the moment they walked in. Me and the rest of the guns and the muscles, we felt it too. Usually we grab a smoke and catch up while the freaks do their thing. But everything annoyed me. Every voice that piped up, every little movement on the edge of my vision, every breath that I could hear anyone take. Sooner or later, it went where it was all going to go. But the weird thing is that everyone pulled. It wasn't just the Penguin's crew or Laughing Boys, it was the whole room. Guys who had no beef with each other or worked together half the time, or had no history at all, or didn't even know each other's names. I was muzzle to muzzle with Slow Joe Kelly. For the life of me, I have no idea why. And then, just like that, the feeling went away. These 2 men who kill at the drop of a hat, but not for no reason. It felt like they all came to their senses as fast as they lost them. All the same, it didn't feel right. A couple of guys threw up outside. I did when I got home. Still not feeling 100%. Maybe that was why the Scarecrow wanted us to go after the Penguin and the Riddler. Some sort of leftover from the meeting. I didn't say anything, but I quit after everyone got back from finding them all cut up. Heard some other guys did too." Batman tells him, "Well, you better go and sign up again. Not with Scarecrow, obviously, but the Joker's always looking for new talent." Volkov tells him, "Why would I do that?" And Batman tells him, "Because the Joker started the trouble. It could have been any of them. Coincidence and that thing have never gone together. Remember, Batman never kills, but I'm far, far worse than that multicolored rabble. I won't let you die." As Batman leaves, Volkov gets up telling him that he left Russia to get away from people like him. Later that night, Volkov heads back to his apartment, takes his pills, and stares at himself in the mirror. Winner. He's a winner, right? He then crawls into bed and turns out the lights and quickly drifts to sleep when he hears, "Remember, Volkov, Batman never kills." He screams, reaching for the light, and as he turns it on, lightning strikes and then nothing. And that's the first issue of this, quite obviously, out of continuity Batman story. It's called Batman Reptilian. Check it out at your local comic book store. But let's go ahead and move on to the next issue of Harley Quinn number 4. Now, when we last left off with Harley Quinn, she decided to be a good guy and was trying to get in good with the Bat family. Hugo Strange arrived in Gotham and decided that all of the individuals who were involved in the Joker War now needed to be hauled off and corrected. And guess who needs to be corrected? That would be Harley Quinn. The rats in the sewers scurry about when they hear a commotion. And Harley yells that if he keeps throwing all of the pieces, how are we supposed to play chess, Grundy? Grundy leans over the makeshift chessboard. Solomon Grundy. And Harley tells him, "Do not give me that attitude. You were trying to cheat, but it doesn't matter. I took your rook. Or was that your knight?" Solomon stomps his feet standing up. "Born on Monday!" Harley tells him, Yeah. I'm not hiding with you in the sewer to play chess with literal trash just to avoid my real issue. That, of course, consisting of Hugo Strange clown-napping my friend Kevin and a bunch of former Joker clowns. Nope, definitely not doing that. Don't need to get away from what just happened. But, let's say I was having some issues and I didn't even know where to start. I mean, I'm not Batman or nothing. Heck, I don't even know if I'm one of the good guys right now. Solomon sits back down. People good and people bad. And Harley yells, "No, Harley bad and Harley all bad. Everyone is right about me. I should never have come back to Gotham. I promised Batman that I wouldn't mess things up, but I already have. Butt punch nearly killed me. Batman doesn't need me. And I couldn't even finish the job in Mr. J when I had the chance. I just break everything. But as Harley ends up breaking the figure that she was using on the chessboard, Solomon places his hands on her, smiling. You, Harley Quinn. Harley pauses for a moment. Yeah, you're right. I hadn't even thought about it that way. I'm not Batman or Batgirl or Batdog or whoever else Bats is slapping a symbol on these days. I can't be them, but I can be myself. And I could still save Kevin and the others. Maybe. I just have to do it my way. After giving Solomon a kiss on the cheek, she runs out, telling him, I owe you. And as he looks back at the board, he moves one piece and smiles. Checkmate. Later, Harley stands atop a building staring at Strange's safe building, telling herself in her Batman voice that the human air smells like harbor underneath the concealed stench of rot. This city, my city, is filled with monsters and men. Some more monster than men. But soon, my city will learn that Batman has constant laryngitis from talking like this. Like, could you imagine if I talked that way? This is my city, grumble, grumble, grumble. Morose and possessive. What's with the constant ownership over Gotham anyways? Maybe that's something to unpack another time. She takes out her grappling hook, asking, how does Batman even use this thing? If I was Bats, I would just jump through the window, kicking Strange in his big stupid evil man head, and yell something like, your reign of terror in Gotham is over! Harley Quinn is here to save the day! But I'm not Batman, and that's a really big fall. How do I get down from here? And just before she could even think further, the ledge she's standing on cracks, and then she begins to tumble to the streets below. Harley quickly hits the button to fire the grappling hook, and seconds later, before splattering on the concrete, she bounces on the cable and nervously laughs, telling everyone, Hiya! Great night for falling off buildings! She then jumps and rolls to her feet, stating, I just have to remember what Grundy said. Me, Harley Quinn! And she dashes away. At the back of the lab, several of Strange's orderlies begin to unload their next shipment of experimental drugs when a shadow begins to loom over them. And a voice tells them, I am the night! And as the orderlies throw boxes at the ground and say, forget this! We aren't paid nearly enough for this! Harley stands up with her fingers pointed up to give herself the bat ears and laughs, jumping down, rolling to the back entrance as she quietly sneaks in. As she makes her way through, Harley asks herself if this is supposed to be the new Arkham, because they forgot the mold, the stench of cigarettes, the stale coffee, and the obvious OSHA violations. As the guards begin to walk by, Harley ducks into a room and ends up in a rather high-tech lab, clearly being used to manufacture some kind of mysterious green substance for the obviously nefarious purposes. Good thing about Arkham is that it was at least reliable, and you always knew what you were getting into. Bad food, bad inmates, multiple avenues for an easy escape, but this? It's like someone gave Bill Bye the run of the loony bin. Just then, she bumps into a table and sends a beaker crashing to the ground. A guard from the other room runs in telling her, you shouldn't be here. And Harley says, should any of us be here? All this stuff looks pretty toxic. But since it's been a while since I slugged someone with my bat, and after a big wind-up, she swings, breaking most of the beakers on the table, hitting the guard, splattering the toxic goo all over him. As the alarms begin to blare, Harley runs out stating, so much for being sneaky. Just gotta take the elevator up, because if I was a violent, crazy psychiatrist, that's where I would be. But as all the other guards run in, Harley begins hitting all of the buttons, stating, just to be sure, we're gonna check all the floors to see where all the captive clowns are. Once the elevator begins to go up, the bat begins to swing again, cracking the skulls of anyone standing inside. And as the elevator reaches floor 10, the bell dings, and Harley walks into the pitch-black room. The doors shut, and there's a click. As the lights go on, Strange smiles, holding a needle, stating, I am so very pleased that you should join me tonight. And as the orderlies begin to surround her, Harley thinks to herself, well, crap! The final confrontation between Harley Quinn and Hugo Strange is coming, my dear viewers, so make sure you check back on a daily basis for the next episode of DC Compilation. As I said at the beginning of the video, we are constantly putting together videos like this with 2 to 3 comic books that are interesting to make a nice long video with multiple adventures in DC for you. I hope you guys enjoyed. Go check out your local comic book store to support our industry or buy them at Comicsology.com. And I will see you next time right here.